Welcome, everybody, to Make It Make Sense with Monique Pressley. Thanks so much for joining, where we try to do exactly what the title says, make it make sense. Even if it's nonsense, we actually give it our best shot. There's been a lot going on in the news this week, but I want to draw your attention to the things that are crucial, the things that are critical, the things that matter in our lives. And one of the things that matters in our lives is this new executive order from the Trump administration that is basically trying to find ways to create a police state in the United States. And of course, it's always under the guise of doing something that's good for America. But we know it's less about policy and it's more about intent. So we see that Trump over and over again has always desired to send military to do functions that are for state governments and for local governments, that Trump has always exaggerated the threat of protest, especially in blue states, in areas where people are progressive and actually believe in civil rights. He has actively been one that wants to shield the police from accountability for their actions when they commit wrongful police misconduct, when they are over arresting, when they are assaulting people who are in their care, when they are causing the wrongful death of people who are in their care, who are under arrest, but are supposed to be free from that type of illegality. Their job is to protect and serve. Their job is not to hunt down and kill. But Trump seems to be confused about that, except when it's people who support him, because not today or any day are we going to forget what happened in the nation's capital on January 6th, that people were not peacefully protesting. People were attacking police officers. People supporting Trump were sieging, attacking, and forcefully entering the state's capital, the United States Capitol. People were rummaging through the Capitol, defecating in the Capitol. Many were injured, and police officers, multiple, died because of what happened that day. And what did Trump do when he came into office? He immediately pardoned them all. Every J6 insurrectionist, rioter, killer, no matter how serious their offenses were, no matter what other offenses they had committed, no matter what they were wanted for, even, or were already serving sentences for, he gave them unconditional pardons. And some of them have been out killing again, committing crimes again. But that doesn't matter. Protecting the police, shielding law enforcement, none of that mattered where January 6th was concerned. But any other time, we get the guy who's saying that the police are supposed to be able to do their job, that they're supposed to be able to arrest criminals absent things that are important, like due process. He was interviewed recently and wasn't able to answer a basic question about whether his job is to support and defend the Constitution, and whether people who live in the United States are supposed to have due process. Like, he is ignorant to the fact, intentionally or not, of his very oath, the oath that he took twice in becoming president of the United States. The dude is either dumb, ignorant, clueless, lawless, immoral, or all of the above. All of the above is probably what it is. But this executive order calls for military and national security assets to go to the states, to go to localities, to assist them, and to direct federal resources and protections. Now, I want to go through a little bit of the actual order, which is called Strengthening and Unleashing America's Law Enforcement to Pursue Criminals and Protect innocent citizens. This came out on April 28th, 2025. Strengthening and unleashing, you'll hear that? America's law enforcement to pursue criminals and protect innocent citizens. That's what he's claiming this executive order is doing. And I do want to remind you, executive orders are not automatically the law of the land. There are things that presidents can do that are in their particular administrative discretion to do where federal powers are concerned. And then there are things that can't be done absent Congress legislation or are rights that are particularly reserved to the states. So there's a mixed bag in here. There's some things that they're saying they can do that they can do, and then there are some things that are just unlawful because the whole goal of this administration, the way they do things, is they throw it against the wall and see if it can stick. And if it sticks, great. If it doesn't, they move on. And if it doesn't, because people run to court and sue them, then they're like, oh no, that's not what we meant. And they try something else. So the latest thing that they're trying, which we all need to be concerned about, is trying to create this police state. Section 1 says safe communities rely on the backbone and heroism of a tough and well-equipped police force. Again, he cared about that except for January 6th. And it's saying that they're committed to empowering state and local law enforcement to firmly police dangerous criminal behavior and protect innocent citizens. So they've got these few ways that they're going to go about doing this. Section 2, legal defense of law enforcement officers. The Attorney General shall take all appropriate action to create a mechanism to provide legal resources and indemnification to law enforcement officers who unjustly incur expenses and liabilities for actions taken during the performance of their official duties to enforce the law. This mechanism shall include the use of private sector pro bono assistance for such law enforcement officers. Now, here's where I want you guys to put 2 and 2 together and get 4, because this is where the math actually is mathing on what this administration is trying to do. You may recall a couple of weeks ago, there was an executive order that I discussed with you where this president has been going after law firms by name, law firms that represented his political opponents, law firms that represented progressive movements. He's been attacking law firms like Perkins Coie. And I talked to you guys about how Trump keeps losing because when the law firms push back, they're winning in court, and judges are coming out with scathing rebukes saying that these executive orders were unlawful. But there were other law firms that capitulated, complied in advance, and entered into these agreements with the administration saying that they would commit like $1 billion between all of the firms in pro bono legal support for Trump administration determined causes. Here's where this section 2 comes in, because the president and the White House are saying that they want law enforcement officers who have been accused of wrongful conduct, police misconduct, to be defended, for their defense to be paid for, not just by the local union finding them local union representation, but by private sector pro bono assistance. Ding, ding, ding. The war chest that he's been building from these high-priced, high-powered firms that they agreed to do, complying in advance, saying yes in advance, being utter spineless cowards, capitulating to unlawful executive orders that directly affect them. He wants to use that war chest for police officers who are out there committing crimes against citizens. He wants to use that war chest to ensure that even when police can't be removed from lawsuits, when they end up not being protected from lawsuits, that it won't matter because all of their expenses and any judgment against them is going to end up getting paid by these law firms. by the funds that they've agreed to put in this pro bono war kitty. Even though some of those law firms said, oh no, it won't be used to defend police. That's exactly what's happening. Why is that dangerous? Because one of the main motivators that we can use in the system to keep police from being out on the streets like this is the wild, wild west, like they're Robocops even more than they already are. One of the main motivators is that they will actually have civil liability, that they will not escape being held personally liable, personally responsible for their actions when those actions are outside of their job duties. And this section is trying to get rid of that. It's trying to make it so that they are completely immune, no matter the circumstance, from whatever happens because of their bad conduct. Section 3, empowering state and local law enforcement. The Attorney General and other appropriate heads of executive departments and agencies shall take all appropriate action to maximize the use of federal resources to provide best new practices to state and local law enforcement to aggressively police communities against all crimes. That one they can do. They can provide new best practices because they're just saying to states and to local governments, this is what we think you should be doing. That's advisory. That's something the executive branch can do. But then they keep going. Expand access and improve the quality of training available to state and local law enforcement. Again, something they can use their federal funds to do. Increase pay and benefits for law enforcement officers. No, that's up to the states, state budgets, local law enforcement budgets, not up to the feds. Promote investment in the security and capacity of prisons. Depends on whether it's federal prison or state prison. Increase the investment in collection, distribution, and uniformity of crime data across jurisdictions. They absolutely should do this. People have been asking for this to happen for a long time. Within 60 days of the date of this order, the Attorney General shall review all ongoing federal consent decrees, out-of-court agreements, and post-judgment orders to which a state or local law enforcement agency is a party and modify, rescind, or move to conclude such measures that unduly impede the performance of law enforcement functions. What are they saying, guys? All those civil rights cases that we had under Kristen Clark, when she was head of the Civil Rights Division of the Justice Department under Merrick Garland, where we saw an increase in the bringing of cases, the trying of cases, the getting of guilty verdicts and liable verdicts on cases all across this country, where we saw law enforcement agencies all across the country being held to account, where there was highest number of consent decrees. And a consent decree is exactly that. It's by consent, meaning that the local law enforcement agency has said that they agree to enter into it. They know that they need the help. So he's saying to Pam Bondi, review every last one of them. You know what that means. Undo it. Same as Trump won, except for more so. Looking at places where they were suing under the Civil Rights Act, where they were trying to prevent discrimination. That's the actual job of the Department of Justice, where they were trying to prevent law enforcement agencies and police departments at the state and local level from unleashing terror on their own citizens, usually Black and brown citizens. All of these things are the responsibility of the Department of Justice, which heads U.S. Attorney General's offices all over this country. This is saying, look at it, undo it, take it back. If it unduly impedes the performance of law enforcement functions, we all know what that means. Using national security assets. for law and order. Within 90 days of the date of this order, the Attorney General and the Secretary of Defense, in consultation with the Secretary of Homeland Security and the heads of agencies as appropriate, shall increase the provision of excess military and national security assets in local jurisdictions to assist state and local law enforcement. Within 90 days of the date of this order, the Secretary of Defense shall determine how military and national security assets, training, non-lethal capabilities, and personnel can most effectively be utilized to prevent crime. This is a police state. This is a federal police state. It's against the law. It's against the law. Local policing is given to local departments. State and local policing is under the province, under the authority of the state. If there is a situation that requires national security measures, or that cannot be handled by the state and the local law enforcement agencies, they can request assistance from the federal government. It's not just send in the feds, send in the troops because of supposed threats. Can you imagine if this actually happened, how they would justify in states they don't like, communities where protests are active, where people are exercising their rights? They want to clamp down on it. I mean, this is the same man who was asking during Trump won, and there were protesters in front of the White House, if they could be shot in the leg. This president was asking that question about unleashing, did unleash the National Guard, did tear gas citizens for protesting, peacefully protesting. So now wants to do it all across the country. Why? To quiet the growing angst, the growing anger, the growing frustration with the repeated failures of his administration. Nothing he promised people he was going to do has he done. No surprise to those of us who were saying don't vote for this man. But there are people out there in the streets who are hurting more than they were before, whose homes and budgets and grocery bills are worse and higher than they were before. People who have lost jobs when he just thought he was getting rid of feds, but there's a trickle down when the market is in the toilet, and it affects people all over the country because corporations start laying people off in order to be able to survive, to stay open. They start laying people off. They change their own internal budgets. We've seen all across the country from what's going on in the stock market due to his crazy tariffs and the way that it's hitting everyday citizens. So what he's saying here is, oh, but you're not going to say anything about it. You're not going to speak up. You're not going to gather. You're not going to peacefully assemble. You're not going to protest because we're going to send the military in order to police you. Illegal. Must not happen. This is how we turn into an autocracy, a totalitarian government, a dictatorship from a democracy. Part of what makes us a supposedly a hope to be, an aiming to be free country is the ability to speak out, not just at the voting booth, but in the streets and on your phones, to stand up and say something and to join with others and say something about things your government is doing that you do not like. These are the principles that this country was founded upon. The last section is saying the Attorney General and the Secretary of Homeland Security shall utilize the Homeland Security task forces in order to coordinate and advance the objectives of the order. None of this is good. None of it is good. I mean, what they're intending to do is basically utilize the powers that they have, utilize their devices in the hopes of people being so afraid that they'll do exactly what these law firms did: capitulate in advance. I have one more document. Well, doesn't matter. I think we've covered as much as we need to. You can go to whitehouse.gov, the way I always tell you. You can go to whitehouse.gov. I'm done with the document. You can take it down. You can go there and look it up for yourself. If you'd like to be informed, you can go there and look at the things that they are saying and know it for yourself. I'm looking blurry now. I don't know why, guys, but I'm almost done. So hopefully you can still hear me, even if you're not seeing me very well. I'll try to switch it and see if that'll help. Oh, maybe I'll come to in a minute. But you can go to whitehouse.gov and you can look up presidential edicts, orders, statements, and you can share that information with somebody else because we need everybody possible to know what's going on. And I see you guys in the chat. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. When they try to take your tongue. Absolutely right. I see you, Linda. We will die roaring. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the way I feel about all of us. That is absolutely the way I feel, that we will die roaring. I'm going to see if I can fix our blurriness. George, can you switch me to the other camera? Will that work? Oh, that sort of looks better. I just want you guys to be able to actually see me while we finish. So I would urge you, as I always urge you, please go to your own platform and use it. Share in your own community because people need to know about these executive orders and what they're trying to do. People need to be informed because knowledge is power. People perish for a lack of knowledge. That's straight Bible. And I don't want people to perish on my watch. So you've heard it now, so you can join me. You are responsible for what you have heard. Do something with it. There was also good news this week. The Roman Catholic Church has a new pope, and as far as I'm concerned, he's a brother. I'm not going to talk about that today, though. I'm going to talk about Pope Leo the 14th for Monday Motivation on Monday. And I also am talking about it at 2 p.m. Eastern today. You guys know I have the Week with Monique on Don Lemon's channel, so please check that out there. And always check me out here. I will see you again on Monday. Please subscribe, please like, please share. I'll talk to you soon. And until then, stay safe out there.